guys? Welcome back to another episode of In the Heyday. I'm your host, Oliver Hayes. I'm here at the CU Event Center giving my live reactions to the Colorado Buffaloes' 94-66 win over the Alabama State Hornets. Honestly, I don't have too many takeaways from this game, as this was the widest margin of victory for the Buffaloes into their four-game season, as they are 4-0 on the year. But I guess the biggest thing that I was impressed by was the fact that the Buffs were able to carry over the momentum from the big win over the Providence Friars on Friday night and carry it over into a Monday night here at the CU Event Center in front of a very less packed crowd than what they experienced on a Friday night, and still play with a bunch of energy, show up defensively, and continue their offensive success they have shown through 4 games this season. That was the most impressive thing to me, is just how focused this team was, and the fact that the Buffs got up early and were able to play 13 guys of their 15-man roster. Of course, only 2 who didn't play were redshirt sophomore John Manny and true freshman center Leonardo Van Elswick. But to see 13 guys play tonight, including the walk-on Nick Randall, who even scored a basket at the very end of regulation on a goaltending violation, it was very fantastic to see the Buffs be able to use this game not only to build more momentum, but to go more into their bench and give some guys some more experience and some more time. As even the returners like Bangad Dak, who led the team in scoring, who led the game in scoring with 16 points, had a positive plus minus of positive 30 in a team leading 23 minutes. Even he, who got buried down the stretch of the game in Providence, he got to use this game as a little bit of a stepping stool, as he had a bigger game tonight. But starting this game on the defensive side, which has been the big emphasis for Colorado this year, especially after the first 2 games of the season. Defense is, always an emphasis for Colorado and head coach Tad Boyle. It was the reason why the Buffs were able to win this game. The offense have been productive throughout all 4 games of the season, but defensively, the Buffs held Alabama State just 24 of 67 from the field across the 40 minutes of this contest. But specifically in the first half, Colorado held them to just 9 of 32 from the field, which equates to 28.1% shooting from the field. And that is obviously a very god-awful mark, and more impressive for the defense to hold a team to that than for a team to probably, shoot as high a mark, because the Buffs, they were able to limit Alabama State's 2 leading scorers entering this contest, Micah Simpson and Ajon Anderson, as those guys, who played over 30 minutes each, shot just 8 of 28 from the field combined, as they struggled and shot just 5 of 9 from the free throw line combined as well. But yeah, the reason those guys struggled as much as they did is the Buffs brought out the pressure. They made sure to extend the pressure oftentimes in this game to make sure that Alabama State wasn't able to get the ball up the floor and create mismatches or get into their action early in order to get the Buffs scrambling and take advantage of their lack of communication. The Buffs showed in better communication against Providence, which also showed tonight, but playing the press against this turnover-prone Alabama State team, they entered this contest averaging 14 turnovers per game. It was able to keep the action from happening, and that was a big reason why Alabama State's offense was so ineffective, because they had to run so much of it out of the half court. But beyond that, like I said, those 2 guys, Ajon Anderson and Micah Simpson, they are the main sources of offense for the Hornets. And so the Buffs, led by Felix Casares, their backcourt was able to lock them down, led to that field goal shooting mark that I mentioned. But it was not only the guards that helped with that; it was the big men as well, as Elijah Malone, Bangad Dak, Sebastian Ranchik, Alon Mikaeli. All those guys were hedging a lot harder, similarly as they did against Providence, and were able to keep the ball from getting not even into the paint, but inside the arc, as point guards, Anderson and Simpson, both right-handed, were not able to come off the screens as hard as they wanted to in order to create offense, not only for themselves but for their teammates, as they like to share the ball as well. Anderson still had 6 assists, and he ended up drawing a crazy 10 fouls, but either way, he was ineffective nonetheless, as he had a game low minus 33 plus minus. And like I said, that was just due to the defensive effort, whether it was the ball pressure, whether it was the full court defense by the wings and the guards, whether it was the ball screen coverage of wings and guards getting through screens, or the bigs hedging extra hard. The Buffs were just overall way more dominant than the Hornets. And while the Hornets were able to score 11 second chance points and actually get 13 offensive rebounds, they weren't the tallest team in the world, and the Buffs grabbed 13 more rebounds than the Hornets. And so beyond those guards, the Hornets didn't really have too many options, especially inside. It actually came down to forward Cam Polisi, a 3.3 point per game average score, coming into this contest, who rattled in 5 shots, 3 of 3 from deep, as he had 13 points in this contest. But the Buffs, beyond while the Hornets didn't have the really just the players to compete with the Buffs, especially on the offensive side, the Buffs were able to rebound the ball against this tenacious Hornets team and turn it into offense. They were to outlet the ball and score in transition, as CU had 30 transition points. That was also thanks to the 11 turnovers that Colorado forced. But of course, Isaiah Johnson, Barrington Hargress, Josiah Sanders, those guys have been pushing the break. Jalen Holland has been another one who has stood out as a guy who's been able to drive the ball and put pressure on the defense. But in the half court, you could also look at Bangad Dak. Sebastian Rancic, he's a guy who's thrived in both the half court and the transition as far as drawing fouls. But Bangad Dak, he had 16 points tonight in his positive plus 30 plus minus performance. He led the team with 16 points. Sebastian Rancic shortly followed with 14 points from himself, and three other Buffs scored in double digits as Colorado shot 30 of 56 from the field, 53.8% overall. And like I said, the half-court offense, it came a lot through the interior as they fed Bangad Dak, they fed Elijah Malone. They looked for Sebastian Rancic, especially in the second half, as Rancic just keeps getting fouled. I mean, he drew another 6 fouls tonight and went to the free throw line for 10 more free throws, knocked down all 10 of them. But he only shot three field goals tonight, and I believe the two that he made were both and one. So teams are playing him physical, and so it's nice that he's able to get to the line. The Buffs were able to get him going. Bangad Dak, who got kind of buried down the stretch of the Providence game, he had the team high 16 points on 4 of 9 shooting. Like I said, he went to the charity stripe 9 times, made 8 of those, and had the positive plus minus of 30. But beyond that, he had 7 rebounds as well, 2 steals, 3 block shots. At least 2 of those were very emphatic volleyball esque type swats, spikes into the floor. Excuse me. But beyond those two, the two returning guys that teams are obviously most worried for. Alone Mikaeli had another solid showing with 10 points on 4 of 7 from the field. Isaiah Johnson another 10 points, 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep. Josiah Sanders had his best game yet, and 3 of 7 from the field, but 4 of 4 from the free throw line, which is somewhere he has struggled with as far as converting. He has gone to the free throw line multiple times through the first few games, but just hasn't made his free throws like some of the other Buffs. Colorado is able to lock in and make some more free attempts tonight. But beyond that, the Buffs. One thing that Tad said he was most impressed by, arguably the most impressed by, was the fact that they had 20 assists to just 11 turnovers. The turnovers isn't really anything new, as Colorado hasn't had more than 11 in a contest this year, which has been, as I keep saying, a breath of fresh air after the season that happened last year. But the fact that it's been the Buffs' goal to have 11 turnovers or less, and they haven't surpassed it yet through 4 games, is something pretty fantastic. But the 20 assists, I mean, guys are really unselfish in transition, of course, as they were able to draw fouls and score in the paint, but also with that, being dominant in the interior, the Buffs, they only made 6 threes, but I believe all those threes were assisted except for one Barrington Hargress pull-up, as the Buffs were, able to create a lot of inside-out looks, and even if it didn't lead to threes, it was able to open up drives for guys like Sebastian Rancic, Bangad Dak a few times, Jalen Holland a few times, some of those other guys who were able to score the ball a little bit more. So overall, not too much to critique besides the quick, but besides probably the first 10 minutes of the second half, where the Buffs actually were losing the second half to Alabama State in those first 10 minutes by a few points. I believe at most it was by 7, as they just didn't have the same energy. They weren't extending the pressure out as much, obviously, with such a huge margin, as they led 46-22 at the half. But the Buffs, they were able to lock back in. Tad said he challenged the guys to to go and win the second half, and the Buffs did that as they won that second half by 4. So obviously not the best second half after an impressive first 20 minutes, but still able to do what they wanted to do as far as winning the second half and show that they could dominate even when things weren't going necessarily as well. But for the most part, there isn't too much more to talk about. As I said, on the defensive side, just more pressure, better ball screen coverage, better in transition, more communication. Offensively, they keep clicking on all cylinders, and the depth is there. Really, the only other thing to talk about is Fawaz Taco Andrew Crawford, and Ian Inman, the 3 guys who haven't really played this season, who got in the game. Taco, he had an assist, had a bucket, and a block. He brought the energy in positive +7, plus minus. The other 2 weren't able to be as productive, having -2 plus minuses. Ian Inman went 0-4, 0-3 from the 3-point line, but that's kind of just the nature of his play as a sharpshooter. And Andrew Crawford, a high school point guard turned forward, being now 6'7", 6'8" with the Buffs. He's trying to come into his own as a still quite young player himself. Solid showing, fairly solid showings from that guy, from those guys, specifically Taco. I think he really exerted himself on the defensive end and able to grab 2 rebounds. Ian Inman, like I said, his performances will be a little streaky. Andrew, I think, is just more about him, figuring out how to, be impactful in this role with the ball not in his hands, as he went 1 of 4 tonight. But it's seemingly, to me, impressed as far as being able to find openings behind the defense as a cutter, and being able to find himself open in the corner for one of his I guess he made. I'm low key lost. I remember 1 3 from the corner that he missed, and I forget the one that he made, which is a little ironic. But either way, it was notable with the fact that he was able to find space behind the defense, but also on the arc as well. So yeah, I believe that's mostly everything that you could take away from this game. The Buffs don't play again until Friday, and I know that I was promising 2 rewatch broadcasts from Eastern Washington, Providence. I've been super busy with school, kind of building up down the stretch of the semester, but I promise you guys that rewatch podcast of all these games will be coming. It will probably be very long, over 30 minutes if I had to guess, but a lot of things I want to highlight, and that will be coming with a lot more articles, TikToks, a lot more coverage, as you guys have seen that this far into the season, and I will continue to bring that stuff. So appreciate you guys listening to another episode of In the Heyday. I can't wait to bring you more coverage. As always, my name is Oliver Hayes. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.